When Mikayla Nogueira drama hits TikTok, you know it's going to be messy. But this week wasn't just another Mikayla Nogueira controversy about editing photos or questionable beauty guru behavior. This was the week she managed to burn bridges with one of the biggest names in makeup while simultaneously having a complete meltdown about her appearance. We're talking Huda Beauty drama, passive-aggressive comments that left everyone speechless, and a tearful admission that has the entire beauty community divided. From POV beauty tutorials to public breakdowns, Michaela's latest tea spill involves everything from Morphe-level brand betrayals to the kind of drama that makes Jaclyn Hill controversies look tame. And trust me, what happened next will shock you. But before we dive into this absolute mess, smash that subscribe button because apparently everyone's doing it and we don't want to be left out of the cool kids club. Plus, you'll need to be subscribed for the emotional support when this story gets wild. So here's what went down. Michaela started this catastrophic week by doing something absolutely unthinkable in the influencer world. She publicly called out a brand that has supported her for years, demanding they cut her friend a check for something that might not even deserve payment. And she ended the week with an emotional breakdown about her looks that had people questioning everything about beauty standards and authenticity online. Let's start with the brand drama that has everyone talking. You know how most beauty influencers are terrified of burning bridges with major cosmetic companies? They'll pretend to love products they hate, flip-flop on their opinions the second a sponsorship appears, and basically sell their souls for that PR package. Michaela has always been the queen of this behavior. Remember when she absolutely dragged Kosas products in her videos, calling them terrible and saying she'd never use them again? She literally took off their concealer mid-application, complaining it was unwearable. Then boom, suddenly she's partnering with them and calling their concealer her holy grail. She went from saying she'd never flock to the brand to thanking them profusely for their amazing products. It was textbook influencer behavior, and we all expected her to keep playing it safe with brands. But apparently, Michaela decided to throw that playbook out the window when it came to Huda Beauty. And this is where things get absolutely wild, because Huda Beauty isn't just any brand. They've been supporting Michaela for years, even going as far as creating custom fragrance-free products specifically for her when she complained about their scents irritating her eyes. They literally sent her a personalized powder as an early wedding gift. That's the kind of brand relationship most influencers would protect with their lives. So, what could possibly make Michaela risk this golden relationship? Her friend, Sam. Now, let me tell you the backstory that makes this whole situation even more ridiculous. Sam, who happens to be Michaela's best friend, created something called Cherry Pie by mixing two of Huda Beauty's Easy Bake setting powders. She combined their cherry blossom and peach pie shades, creating this viral moment where everyone on TikTok started copying her mixture. The combination became so popular that people were buying both powders just to recreate Sam's blend. We're talking about $50 powders here, so customers were dropping serious money to get this custom mixture. Naturally, Huda Beauty noticed the trend and decided to give the people what they wanted. They created an official duo version, complete with a sifter that let you choose between the individual shades or mix them together. But here's the thing that makes Huda Beauty look like absolute saints in this situation. They didn't just steal the idea and run with it. When they announced the new product, Huda herself made a video specifically shouting out Sam and another creator named Lex who had suggested adding a sifter. She tagged them, showed their original videos, and gave them full credit for inspiring the product. They even sent Sam her own personalized cherry pie powder with her face on it. This is literally the dream scenario for any creator who inspires a product. Getting credited, tagged, featured in the announcement, and receiving personalized products? Most people would be thrilled with this level of recognition from a major brand. The comments under Huda's announcement were full of praise for how well they handled giving credit where it was due. But apparently that wasn't enough for Michaela. She decided to leave a comment that has everyone questioning her judgment and maturity. Under Huda's video crediting Sam, Michaela wrote, "So excited for Sam to get her big fat check she deserves. I know you have that on the way to her." The passive-aggressive energy was off the charts, and people immediately started calling her out for the entitled tone. The responses to Michaela's comment were brutal. People were saying she sounded aggressive, entitled, and completely out of line. Someone pointed out that Sam didn't invent the product, she just mixed makeup like millions of other people do every day. Others defended Huda Beauty, calling them queens for always doing what's right and listening to their community. And here's where it gets really messy. As Michaela's best friend, Sam obviously talks to her about everything. It's pretty clear that Michaela found out Huda wasn't cutting Sam a check, and she decided to take matters into her own hands by trying to create public pressure. But instead of handling this privately or helping her adult friend advocate for herself, she chose to leave this passive-aggressive comment on a public platform. Think about how this looks from Huda Beauty's perspective. They go above and beyond to credit creators, feature them in announcements, send personalized gifts, and show genuine appreciation. Then, one of their long-time supported influencers publicly demands they pay money, essentially implying they're being unfair or cheap. It's the kind of move that can permanently damage a business relationship.
But wait, let me get you caught up on all this drama properly. Hit that subscribe button real quick because we're about to dive deep into the legal and ethical mess of this situation. And you're going to want notifications on for the follow-up video I'm planning about the aftermath. Now, let's talk about whether Sam and Lex actually deserve to get paid for this idea. This is where things get legally and ethically complicated. And honestly, I can see arguments on both sides. On one hand, their specific combination and naming became viral enough to inspire an actual product. The cherry pie mixture was Sam's creation, and it generated massive buzz that clearly benefited Huda Beauty financially. But on the other hand, we're talking about mixing two existing products. Sam didn't invent a new formula or create something revolutionary. She literally just combined two powders that the brand already made. If we start paying everyone who mixes products or gives feedback about improvements, where does it end? Beauty enthusiasts have been mixing foundations, concealers, lip products, and setting powders for decades.
The comment sections under these videos were full of people pointing out this exact issue. Someone wrote, "People mix stuff for ages and no one gets paid. People mix serums and foundation, mix all kinds of lip products. Why would someone get a big fat check for doing something everyone else does for ages in the makeup and skincare industry?" And they're not wrong. Every day, beauty creators are sharing tips about mixing products, suggesting improvements, and giving feedback. If brands had to pay for every piece of community input, it'd either go bankrupt or stop listening to their customers altogether. Under Huda's announcement videos, people were already making suggestions about magnetic packaging and build your own options. Should those people also expect checks if Huda implements those ideas? From a legal standpoint, there's probably no obligation for Huda Beauty to pay Sam anything. She shared her mixing technique freely on social media as content creation, not as a business proposal or consultation. She gained followers, engagement, and recognition from her viral moment. That's typically how the social media economy works. You create content, gain influence, and monetize that influence through your own channels. But Michaela's comment reveals a deeper issue in influencer culture. There's this growing expectation that brands owe creators payment for any idea they implement, even when those ideas were shared freely as content. It's a sense of entitlement that doesn't really align with how innovation and community feedback traditionally work. The irony is that Huda Beauty actually handled this situation better than most brands would. They could have easily created the duo without crediting anyone, claiming they came up with the idea internally. Instead, they went out of their way to acknowledge the creators who inspired them. But apparently, acknowledgement, credit, free products, and massive exposure weren't enough. They wanted cold, hard cash, too. And this brings us to the second major controversy of Michaela's disastrous week. Just when you thought she couldn't make things worse for herself, she posted an emotional video about her appearance that has everyone divided. This wasn't just any breakdown, though. This was a calculated response to years of people calling her out for repeatedly denying it. People regularly post comparison images showing her in professional shots versus candid photos taken by others,
And the difference is pretty striking. The beauty community has been calling her out for promoting unrealistic beauty standards while claiming to be authentic and filter-free.
But instead of addressing these legitimate concerns about misleading her audience, Michaela chose to make this about people attacking her appearance. She posted a tearful video claiming that people calling her out for editing was actually just them calling her unattractive. She said she was aware that she wasn't an attractive person and that people were using her side profile against her. The manipulation in this approach is pretty obvious. By reframing valid criticism about editing and authenticity as attacks on her natural appearance, she's trying to make her critics look like bullies. It's a classic deflection technique that shifts the conversation away from her questionable practices to her feelings and self-esteem. But here's what makes this whole situation even more frustrating. Michaela makes her living as a beauty influencer. Her face is literally her business canvas. When she heavily edits photos or uses filters while reviewing makeup products, she's not just affecting her own self-image. She's misleading customers who trust her reviews and want to see how products actually perform on real skin.
If you're watching Michaela review a foundation while she has a smoothing filter applied, you're not getting an honest assessment of the product's coverage or finish. If she's promoting a mascara while wearing false lashes that she's edited to look even more dramatic, you're being deceived about what the mascara can actually do. These are just personal choices about self-presentation. They're business practices that affect consumer decisions. The comments under Michaela's emotional video were split between supportive fans and people pointing out that she was missing the point. Her supporters were leaving messages about how beautiful she is and how everyone looks different in candid photos versus posed ones, but others were trying to redirect the conversation back to the real issue: transparency in beauty content. Someone left a particularly insightful comment saying, "She deserves criticism, but never for her looks. Michaela deserves a lot of criticism, but she looks absolutely beautiful." This perfectly captures the problem with her tearful video. By making this about her appearance, she's avoiding accountability for the practices that actually matter.
And speaking of accountability, let's pause here for another subscribe reminder because we're about to get into the really controversial stuff. Plus, I need you subscribed so I can personally apologize when this video gets me canceled by the Michaela fan club. The thing that's most frustrating about Michaela's appearance-focused breakdown is how it distracts from the legitimate issues people have with her content. We should be talking about her pattern of undisclosed sponsorships that violate FTC guidelines. We should be discussing how she promotes multiple competing products simultaneously without proper disclosure. We should be addressing her history of flip-flopping on product opinions based on brand relationships. Instead, we're now debating whether it's mean to point out that someone's professional photos look different from their candid shots. It's a masterful deflection that makes her critics look petty while avoiding the real problems with her business practices. But let's dig deeper into this appearance controversy, because there's a bigger issue at play here. Michaela built her career partly on relatability and authenticity. She positioned herself as the everyday girl who just loves makeup, not some unattainable beauty guru. But when you're heavily editing your content while claiming to be natural and authentic, you're contributing to the same unrealistic beauty standards you claim to be fighting against. The impact of heavily edited beauty content on young viewers is well documented. When impressionable followers see these flawless looks and don't realize they're heavily filtered or edited, it can seriously affect their self-esteem and perception of normal skin. Michaela has nearly 17 million followers, many of whom are young people looking for beauty inspiration and advice. So when she posts edited content while claiming it's natural, she's not just being dishonest about her own appearance. She's contributing to a culture that makes her followers feel inadequate about their real, unfiltered faces. The irony is that she's now crying about people making her feel bad about her appearance while she's been doing the same thing to her audience for years. The beauty community has seen this pattern before with other influencers. They build careers on edited, filtered content that promotes unrealistic standards. Then when they face criticism, they position themselves as victims of appearance shaming while continuing the same misleading practices. It's a cycle that keeps the focus on feelings rather than accountability. What makes Michaela's situation even more complex is her relationship with other beauty gurus who faced similar controversies. The beauty influencer world is small, and everyone knows everyone. When major drama happens, it sends ripple effects throughout the entire community. Other creators have to decide whether to support Michaela publicly or distance themselves to protect their own reputations.
We've seen this happen with previous beauty guru scandals. When someone like Jaclyn Hill faces major backlash, other influencers either rally around them or conspicuously stay silent. Michaela's current controversies are putting her friendships and professional relationships to the test in very public ways. The Huda Beauty situation is particularly damaging because it involves a brand that many other influencers work with. If Michaela's comments are seen as entitled or unprofessional, it could affect how brands view working with her friends or similar creators. The beauty industry is built on relationships, and burning bridges publicly can have far-reaching consequences. But there's another layer to this story that makes it even more interesting. The timing of these controversies seems strategic, almost like Michaela is creating distractions from other issues. When influencers face serious criticism about their business practices, sometimes they'll create emotional content that shifts the narrative to their personal struggles.
By posting the tearful video about her appearance right after the Huda Beauty drama, Michaela effectively changed the conversation. Instead of discussing her entitled comment and passive-aggressive behavior toward a supportive brand, everyone's now debating whether appearance criticism is fair game. It's a masterful PR move, even if it might not have been intentional. The pattern is pretty clear when you look at Michaela's history of controversies. Whenever she faces criticism about her professional behavior, business practices, or authenticity, she tends to respond with emotional content about her personal struggles. It humanizes her and makes critics look mean-spirited, but it also avoids addressing the actual issues people raise. This strategy works because most people don't want to seem like they're bullying someone who's clearly struggling. When Michaela posts about feeling insecure or attacked, her supporters rally around her and dismiss her critics as haters. It creates a protective bubble that shields her from accountability while maintaining her victim status.
Before we get to the most shocking part of this whole mess, let me remind you one more time to subscribe because you're going to want to catch my follow-up video about what happens next in this saga. Trust me, this story has more twists than a soap opera written by drama-addicted teenagers. But here's what really gets me about this whole situation. Michaela is a successful businesswoman who's built a multi-million-dollar brand around her personality and expertise. She has the resources to handle criticism professionally, hire PR teams, and navigate controversies strategically. Instead, she consistently chooses to respond emotionally in ways that create more drama and division. The Huda Beauty comment could have been handled so differently. If she really felt her friend deserved compensation, she could have reached out privately to negotiate. She could have helped Sam approach Huda Beauty directly with a business proposal. She could have used her influence behind the scenes to advocate for her friend without creating public pressure.
Instead, she chose to leave a passive-aggressive comment that made her look entitled and potentially damaged her relationship with a supportive brand. It's the kind of move that makes business partners nervous about working with someone who might publicly call them out if they don't meet unspoken expectations. Similarly, the appearance video could have been an opportunity for genuine conversation about beauty standards, editing practices, and authenticity in social media. Instead, it became a defensive deflection that avoided the real issues while making her critics look like appearance shamers. These response patterns suggest someone who's more interested in maintaining her victim status than addressing legitimate criticism. It's a strategy that works in the short term because it generates sympathy and support from fans, but
In the long term, it prevents growth, accountability, and genuine resolution of the underlying issues. While Michaela was busy creating drama with Huda Beauty and posting emotional videos about her appearance, something major was happening behind the scenes. Industry insiders are saying that several brands are reconsidering their relationships with influencers who've shown patterns of unpredictable public behavior. The beauty industry is built on trust and professionalism. Brands invest serious money in influencer partnerships, and they expect those partnerships to be handled maturely. When influencers start making public demands, leaving passive-aggressive comments, or creating unnecessary drama, it makes brands nervous about future collaborations. Huda Beauty's response to Michaela's comment has been notably professional and restrained. They haven't publicly responded or defended themselves, which suggests they're handling this diplomatically behind the scenes. But industry watchers are noting that this kind of entitled behavior from influencers is becoming more common, and brands are starting to push back. The expectation that brands should pay for every piece of community feedback or inspiration is unrealistic and unsustainable. If implemented broadly, it would fundamentally change how companies interact with their customers and communities. Most brands would simply stop engaging with user-generated content to avoid potential payment demands. What's particularly ironic about Michaela's behavior is that she's potentially hurting the very community she claims to support. If her entitled approach makes brands more cautious about crediting creators or engaging with community suggestions, it could harm future opportunities for other influencers to gain recognition for their ideas.
The beauty community thrives on collaboration, inspiration, and mutual support. When one major influencer starts making public demands and creating drama over standard industry practices, it can damage the collaborative spirit that benefits everyone. Other creators might find brands less willing to feature their content or acknowledge their contributions because of concerns about payment demands. And let's be honest about something else. Sam's viral cherry pie moment already benefited her significantly. She gained followers, recognition, and opportunities from creating that trend. She was featured in Huda Beauty's announcements, received personalized products, and became known as the creator of the mixture. In the influencer economy, that kind of exposure is incredibly valuable.
The idea that she also deserves monetary compensation for mixing two existing products sets a precedent that could fundamentally change how social media content creation works. Should everyone who creates viral beauty tips, mixing techniques, or product combinations expect payment if brands implement their ideas? It's a complex question that the industry is still figuring out. But Michaela's public pressure campaign isn't the way to resolve these questions. It's the kind of behavior that makes brands want to avoid working with unpredictable influencers who might create drama over routine business decisions. Professional relationships require trust, and trust is built through private communication and mutual respect, not public call-outs and passive-aggressive comments. As we wrap up this whole mess, it's clear that Michaela's controversial week reveals deeper issues in influencer culture. The sense of entitlement, the deflection of criticism through emotional appeals, and the expectation that brands owe creators payment for community feedback all represent problems that the industry needs to address.
The beauty community is at a crossroads where authenticity, business ethics, and professional behavior are being redefined. How influencers handle criticism, interact with brands, and present themselves to audiences will determine the future of the industry. Michaela's recent behavior serves as a cautionary tale about how not to navigate these challenges. Her passive-aggressive comment toward Huda Beauty damaged a valuable professional relationship over an unrealistic expectation. Her emotional video about appearance criticism deflected from legitimate concerns about authenticity and business practices. Both responses prioritized short-term sympathy over long-term accountability and growth. The real tragedy is that these controversies overshadow legitimate conversations about beauty standards, creator compensation, and authenticity in social media. Instead of having productive discussions about these important topics, we're stuck debating whether Michaela's behavior was appropriate and whether her feelings justify her actions.